This has been a long time coming, but I think this theory is going to be a cornerstone of my overall understanding of the LOONAverse, and maybe yours too. I'm now going to state several points that I will try to explain in this theory. 1. Olivia Hye is Jinsol's shadow. 2. All of Odd Eye Circle can travel to different worlds, but Cherry has the greatest freedom with it. Furthermore, Jinsol activated her Odd Eye before the other two, which is important. 3. Go Won is connected to Odd Eye Circle just as heavily as Olivia Hye is. 4. Vivi is an Eden native and not Eve's counterpart, but Cherry's. 5. The parking garage seen several times throughout LOONA videos is synonymous with Earth. Before we get into any of this, we need to bring attention to several important factors: light, shadow, rings, fruit, and the usage of various spaces and objects as metaphor. We have to go back to the very beginning and look at LOONA all the way through, start to finish, back to front, side to side. Olivia and Go Won is where we'll start, and we need to observe their links to Odd Eye Circle, which start back in Sweet Crazy Love. Many people have gathered that Olivia is connected to Odd Eye Circle, and most specifically Jinsol. There's endless scenes supporting this, namely the callback scenes from Egoist to Sweet Crazy Love with the earbud, and the callback from Hi Hi to Girlfriend with the Grey Void and the Revolving Girls. What most people never seem to realize though is that Go Won was connected just as much. I'll show you a few things that caught my eye. All of these relate back to Go Won and Olivia just as much. Sweet Crazy Love being in black and white makes a lot of sense, since not only are those the second colors of Jinsol and Cherry, but together are Olivia's own color, the shades of grey. Furthermore, Digipetty has a habit of using black silhouettes and shadows to denote these two characters. We later learn that the girl touching her shadow on the wall is Go Won, whose signature animal is a butterfly. We see two instances of butterflies in the Sweet Crazy Love video, and of the 12 moon pictures that Kimlip sprints by, the last two are even in shadow, another subtle nod to Go Won and Olivia long before they were introduced. But one of those pictures holds something even more interesting. Aside from the butterfly, we have a bird symbol and an airplane symbol. Although these clearly relate to Hustle, we're not going to talk about her or the X2X teaser, because frankly I just don't know what those mean. We're going to start with the other thing I found on this eye test, which is a set of rings, all of them with a space cut out. Rings are an important part of LOONA lore. The LOONAverse is confirmed to be in 3 parts, and BBC have all but outright confirmed that it's also related to a Mobius loop of sorts. But the introduction of this feature of their world started long before Odd Eye Circle. It started with an early member, one we know to be Go Won's counterpart, Hyunjin. Let me explain. In Around You, we see Hyunjin receive a bracelet. If you watched a certain cinema theory showing, you know this bracelet was made and sent by Go Won. It may have been before or after she left Eden, but it was after she ate her fruit and went blonde. This is the first ring of many that we see. The second is the one from Love and Live, and you might be curious to find out what it is. It's the foot racing track that she, Heejin, Hustle, and Vivi run around again and again. But this ring is broken, via Vivi defying the cycle and running off track. Remember this for later. And Vivi is important because she's not from Earth. In fact, she's from the same world as Go Won, Eden. There's plenty of info to support this, most importantly the callback scene from New to Everyday I Love You. The Mobius theory, as commonly understood in the LOONA fandom, states that the world of YYXY resides on the opposite side of the strip to Earth, past the world of Odd where the flip occurs, and thus YYXY are inverse counterparts of 1/3. Again, this is all but confirmed. The reverse number order, if you're confused, should dictate that member 9 is the mirror image of member 4, not member 5, aka Vivi. But the callback to Everyday I Love You functions less as a cameo and more as a woman meeting up with an old friend. In order for Vivi to have known Eve in her past as told by Everyday I Love You, which is stated via BBC commentary to be a recreation of her memories, she has to have originated in Eden. Thus, she has her own counterpart who must be from Earth, which fits as according to the number order, it would be member 8. That's Cherry, who is indeed an Earth native. There was an early hint to this later on in Sonatine, which I think everyone missed. There's not much in the way of scenery beyond the girls singing, until you come to a curious shot of a car's tinted window reflecting the alley on our side of it. Later on, there's a repeat shot of this, which shows Vivi behind the window in the car. There was an early, extremely subtle hint that Vivi belongs to a world beyond the mirror, aka beyond the flip in the strip, which is Eden. There's more in Sonatine to talk about, and that happens to be the Ferris wheel, which is that music video's ring. Like the one in Love and Live, it's a broken ring, at least to our eyes, because none other than Hyunjin is framed in front of it. And it is always Hyunjin, never another member. Unless you leave the Sonatine MV and watch Girlfront, in which case there is someone else framed in front of a very similar Ferris wheel, aka Cherry. And who does Cherry mark down on her map? It's Hyunjin, who was in the MV for a single instant and very easily missed. Hyunjin is always involved in some way when rings appear in the LOONAverse. Yet, she didn't appear in Sweet Crazy Love when we next saw the rings on the eye test, but this is where we know Go Won, her counterpart, to have entered the story. We'll jump across to the Eden era of things, back to One&Only. A ring appears in this MV too, a pineapple ring, and like past rings, it gets broken when she cuts it to eat from it. You could say Hyunjin appears here, as her signature animal makes an appearance, but I'm not here to talk about Hyunjin specifically. I'm here to point out the significance of that pineapple ring. Remember when I said we'd be observing fruit as it's used in the LOONAverse? There are 5 members you can relate to specific fruits. Those are the members of YYXY and a cherry, represented by an apple, a strawberry, a pineapple, a blood plum, and a cherry respectively. Daebak Jang pointed out that one of these is unlike the others. The apple, strawberry, plum, and cherry are all part of the broader Rosacea family, aka roses. The pineapple is not, and it, like so much else related to Go Won, is thus different for unexplained reasons. But we can't isolate it entirely. The cherry is also a very important fruit. It's first seen to be so when Cherry uses it to activate her power, which allows her to travel the LOONAverse, and is in some way connected with mirrors. I know we've been jumping around a lot lately, but in order to complete our talk about Go Won and Olivia, we now have to talk about Jinsol and Cherry. The link between Jinsol and Olivia Hye, started in Sweet Crazy Love, was solidified in Egoist, which brought back her famous line about swallowing the sun with a new spin. Olivia herself is the sun. Not only is she related to the actual sun in the sky, she's also labeled a fallen angel by the sign behind Jinsol in her rap segment. The most famous fallen angel is Lucifer, whose name means morning star, that is to say, the sun. Is Olivia Hye the devil? One of her teaser pictures declared her to be sent by God to destroy everything. Let's take a closer look at Jinsol's rap and see what we can find. Fruits appear in Egoist just like the other YYXY videos, but not just Olivia's blood plum. Cherries also appear during the rap break, and most suspiciously, they're being eaten out of a can labeled the sun in the afternoon. So not only is Olivia herself likened to the sun that Jinsol swallowed, but so are these cherries. But who's eating them? It's difficult to get a close look. Olivia's shades of gray colors, including both black and white, it would make sense enough for Cherry to be here, as she can reasonably be said to share Jinsol's link with the final girl. And after a very close look, we can see that whoever's eating from the can has dark hair, like Cherry. But the famous verse of swallowing the sun was never so much as referenced in anything Cherry sang. Then it hit me. What if, dark hair or not, that was still Jinsol? Jinsol starts with dark hair. Jinsol eats a cherry, or a sun. Jinsol becomes blonde. It makes sense enough. It's not unprecedented. In fact, the MV directly preceding Olivia's is One&Only, in which Go Won eats a very bright, sun-like fruit of her own, and her hair goes from dark black to bleach blonde. It does create an inconsistency though, namely in why Cherry herself isn't blonde after dimension hopping so much. But what makes me think it was a dark-haired Jinsol who ate the sun and then became blonde is the Hi Hi MV. In this one, we see Jinsol start out in a very dark space, a parking garage where she's barely visible, but enough sunlight is available to cast her in shadow. From there, she starts her run at breakneck speed, blitzing it out into the bright light. This, I think, is a metaphor either for her going from darkness to light, or for her escaping the imprisonment she sang about in Singing in the Rain, or maybe even both. To find out which one it is, we'll have to look at other moments where we see a parking garage, which leads us right back to Egoist and Sweet Crazy Love. In this one, the person we see in a parking garage is Cherry. From there, we have to look at where we see Kimlip and Jinsol. Kimlip is in an indistinct, abandoned alleyway, while Jinsol is in a subway car. Since Cherry eventually passes right by Kimlip, we can assume they are in the same part of the world, which must be Earth, since this is a prequel to Odd Eye Circle's main stories, and Cherry doesn't leave Earth until Love Cherry Motion. But we cannot assume that of Jinsol, who never leaves the subway car for the entire MV. While Earth in the LOONAverse is contextualized by fairly common settings, the world of Odd is usually shown to us with abandoned buildings and very nature-esque, serene settings. We see beautiful fields of grass and a vivid sky containing 3 moons in Love Cherry Motion, but I think we saw the world of Odd even before that, in Eclipse. That dance studio Kimlip shot Eclipse in was our first look, wild, abandoned, run down, but serene and beautiful. Which is fair to assume if we also assume that all odd eyes give the user some power to travel between the worlds, just differing between them. So where does that put Jinsol? What the exact powers of an odd eye are or how they differ from one another, I can't tell. But I can tell you that we see 2 active odd eyes in Sweet Crazy Love, Jinsol's and Kimlip's. We see Kimlip awaken hers, with an explosive burst of power that breaks nearby neon signs, after which she's able to enter the world of Odd in Eclipse. But Jinsol didn't receive such a strong awakening, she just takes off her eye patch and her eye is glowing. Which leads me to believe that Jinsol had already awakened her eye, but was prevented from using it or somehow it was injured. I'm also led to believe that the fact that her odd eye was already awakened means that her position in the subway car is representative. Jinsol is not in any of the 3 worlds of the LOONAverse at the moment, but is in transit, caught moving between them at this time. In fact, we don't actually see Jinsol in the world of Odd except in the reveal teaser and Love Cherry Motion. She's in transit in Sweet Crazy Love, on Earth in Singing in the Rain, on Earth in Girlfront, and on Earth in Hi Hi. She was on Earth in time to leave a sun for Cherry to swallow on the cake, and in the world of Odd in time to meet her on the other side. None of this covers the contact Jinsol has had with Olivia, which I wish was as easy as saying that she's been to Eden at some point. It could be the other way around, with Olivia Hye having previously inhabited the world of Odd, which I think is likely enough. But from here we have to turn to the lyrics of various songs and the events of Girlfront. I like Singing in the Rain not just because it's good music, but because it's one of the few songs from before the YYXY era where the lyrics are actually important. The start of the song gives us these lyrics. And who is Jinsol running from? Who's chasing her? Or who is she chasing? And then of course we get that loaded lyric, which got referred to later in Egoist. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see the flags in this, nor to know from Egoist that Olivia is heavily associated not just with shadows but with the sun too, just like Go Won. But for now, let's leave Egoist and Egoist. Back to Singing in the Rain. It continues. This would get its own callback in Girlfront with the lyric, again, continuing with Singing in the Rain, the next lyric of interest is, it's for this reason that I think Jinsol's sin refers to a rainstorm, and not necessarily an eclipse like Kimlip. Storm clouds don't just cover up the sun, they cover the stars in the sky too. But after Egoist, we now have to factor in the Cherry too. The run run running line gets repeated, as does the line about swallowing the afternoon sun. Speaking of, the music video here presents a recurring theme of imprisonment, which I pointed out before. Several parts of the dance involve Jinsol's backup dancers surrounding her with bars. Parts of the MV's solo choreo involve a cage of blue neon bars, and she appears contained in an aquarium several times. Combine the lyrics and the video, and you come to the conclusion that Jinsol has been imprisoned for her sin, swallowing the sun. The scenes of the rain coming down at the end are juxtaposed with the bars on the neon cage having been blasted outward. So Jinsol has broken free by the end of it. Was it Olivia who imprisoned her? And what exactly is the context of that prison? What about Girlfront? I've always thought Jinsol's antics in this MV were particularly curious. As I said, it takes place on Earth, But while Kimlip is again on the simple side of things by just running, and Cherry again on the clear context side of things by looking for 1/3 members, Jinsol is still somewhere in the middle doing God knows what. She keeps looking behind her for some reason, and she is repeatedly framed in front of the sun. Swallowing the sun is a metaphor equally applicable to the moon or storm clouds depending on what is happening, an eclipse or a thunderstorm. And Jinsol plays this out visually by always blocking the sun, casting herself in shadow. Was Olivia also hinted at in this video? She was, but was she hinted at beyond the short scene of the girls running around Odd Eye Circle in the void? I think so. We see several shots of shoes running across ground, but not who they're attached to. Just like with Sweet Crazy Love, we could just assume it's the current unit members, or we could learn from experience and posit that it might actually be someone else. One of Jinsol's little look behind scenes occurs directly after an unidentified pair of feet is seen running. We see what she sees, and no one seems to be behind her. She could be looking for her unit members, but I have no reason to believe that since, by this time, she's supposed to have already met up with them. I propose instead that she is avoiding someone. While Converse is Odd Eye Circle's calling card, I don't necessarily think it's restricted to them. All of the LOONA girls wear Converse in the Hi video, for example, so I don't think there's any ironclad rule saying this can't be Olivia. So what exactly is going on between these two members? I will finally make my point about Olivia being Jinsol's shadow here. There's a riddle, a very common riddle, usually told when solving riddles is a subject of any focus. You'll find that almost everyone knows it. Each morning I appear to lie at your feet. All day I follow no matter how fast you run. Yet I perish in the midday sun. The answer to this riddle is a shadow, of course. You probably knew that. The chase talked of and singing in the rain might just refer to this connection between source and shadow, the latter of which will chase the former no matter where or how fast they run. Part of me wonders if the relationship between Jinsol and Olivia is one of enemies, one threatening the other. Jinsol's follow-up lyric, "For the sin of swallowing you, you get bigger and bigger," could refer to shadows growing in size as the day shifts to evening, or the sun seeming to get bigger as it falls over the horizon, or both. Alternatively, it could mean that Olivia is threatened by Jinsol's rain clouds. Shadows need light to exist, and if clouds block out the sun, you'll find that your shadow disappears. It should be noted that LOONA follows time closely. The sun and its progress in the sky is linked to the progression of members, with Heejin's lyrics referring to the morning, Jinsol's referring to the afternoon, and Olivia's whole music video showing off the sunset. For the sin of swallowing the afternoon sun. What does it all mean? And where does the cherry come in? This is a bit of a leap, but perhaps the effects of eating a cherry, aka the sun, depend on who exactly is eating it, where they are, or both. The apple, the strawberry, and the blood plum have consistent effects, causing the user to fall from Eden to Earth. In Jinsol's case, it's linked to a rainstorm. In Cherry's case, it allows her to travel between the different worlds. But there's one member and fruit we haven't covered: Vivi's. We already stated that Vivi was an Eden native who must have fallen long before the others, and now resides on Earth. But that means she must have had a fruit and eaten it, which is never considered either in LOONA lore or by any orbits that I've seen. I don't think it's possible that she left Eden without doing so, because we see Olivia try that in Love Forever. She just ends up lost and can only return to the mansion. Can you see where I'm going with this? Vivi is just one more LOONA member we've seen with both light and dark hair. When we first meet her, it's pink and rather shocking. But we next see her in Eve's New, where she's blonde. I at first thought this was just the dye fading from her hair and leaving only the bleach, but there's no way Digipedi wouldn't have accounted for that and had Kahei re-dye it if he thought it was important. We also see her with dark hair, both times on Earth, once in a cinema theory showing where she's a brunette, and once again in Hi where she's got her natural hair color. Did Vivi also swallow the sun? And what effects did that have on her? If we add Vivi to the circle of members who have swallowed the sun, It puts a new spin on things, because it would mean cherries can indeed cause a fall. It also means that unlike the individual fruits of YYXY, anyone can swallow a sun and fall. Fruits, colors, space travel. Let's talk about Odd Eye Circle again. I've posited that they can all travel between the worlds using their odd eyes. So odd eyes and fruits are both means of traversing the LOONAverse, but in different ways. What exactly are odd eyes, and what does it mean for those who have them? We know Earth natives like Cherry can have them, but what about Eden natives? Is it possible Jinsol was an Eden native with an odd eye, and eating the cherry caused unforeseen effects when the two clashed? 3 people have swallowed the sun that we've looked at: Vivi, Jinsol, and Cherry. Vivi is an android and Jinsol is trapped in some sort of prison, but Cherry seems to be skipping freely. There's places I could go with the hair color thing, particularly regarding Cherry's bright purple hair in the XX era, but we're going to dodge that for now. Why is Cherry safe from the negative aspects of swallowing a sun? Cherry is an Earth native, different from Vivi and Jinsol, but Cherry also possesses a unique odd eye power. Rather than simply traveling the LOONAverse, she does so in a different way, via self-duplication. Everyone's noticed the intense focus on mirrors, and in Love Cherry Motion, her reflection interacts with her on its own. There's a reason her odd eye is on the right side when you see it. You're seeing Cherry's reflection self. The same is true whenever you see her upside down. My theory thus far is this: Jinsol's usage of the cherry in Eden not only caused her to fall, it disrupted her odd eye, removing her ability to use it for some time. This is where the parking garage and Jinsol's imprisonment come into play. In Egoist, we see Olivia waking up on Earth, and then looking down on the spot where she crash-landed, represented by the bottom floor of the parking garage where her bed lays. In Hi Hi, we replay Jinsol's escape from her imprisonment via her running free from the parking garage and out towards the open air. Imprisonment, for the sin of swallowing the sun, refers to her having been trapped on Earth for a time after eating a cherry. We already know from Cherry's usage of it that odd eyes and transverse fruits can interact, they just differ in how they do so. When Cherry, a person with an odd eye, first eats one, it straight up knocks her unconscious. We get a dark dance sequence, and then she wakes up in the world of Odd. At the time, her odd eye wasn't awakened, so she didn't receive any damage to it, but the jolt she got was enough to get her started. For some reason, Jinsol knew that Cherry eating a cherry would get her to awaken and join them. This can only be true if she's familiar with the effects of cherries. It would make no sense for her to know this if Cherry was the only one capable of eating them. The theory advances. Jinsol's odd eye wasn't just disrupted by her sun swallowing, it was overloaded. While the surge she got from eating one put her own odd eye out of commission for a while, with Cherry, it could be used to jumpstart her eye's awakening. Once successfully awakened, she's able to further dodge consequences of sun swallowing thanks to her eye's unique ability of self-duplication. She can split the effects between her two selves, so swallowing the sun doesn't burn Cherry out like it would Jinsol. Activation of her odd eye allows her to interact with her reflection, which in the LOONAverse actually means projecting another cherry onto whichever side of the Mobius flip she's trying to access. Eating the cherry pulls the original over to the side she projected to, where the two halves join. This unique ability is why we know Eve to have sought her out to get to Go Won. Yes, I know it took me a long time to get back to Go Won, but here's where I get really crazy. If Eve knew of how Cherry could use cherries, she likely knew of what disasters can happen if the wrong person eats one. I propose that Go Won's fruit wasn't originally the pineapple. Her fruit is the result of the apple Eve had sent to her. It might even be a fusion of the dangerous cherry and the relatively safe apple. While it still burnt the color from Go Won's hair, it also enabled her safe transit from Eden to Earth. Which is where we finally bring our theory all the way back around to Hyunjin, Vivi, and the rings. Go Won had blonde hair and love forever, before the trio left the mansion, which makes me think that with exception of the cherry, eating one's transverse fruit doesn't just catapult you to the next world over, it simply allows you to get there on your own. Once she made it to Earth, she sent a bracelet to Hyunjin via Cat. We see this bracelet arrive, and so we know that Around You actually takes place fairly late in the LOONAverse's events. Go Won's bracelet is a message to Hyunjin about the cycle, the loop, what have you. That's what Around You is all about, a cycle. She orbits this one person, drawing close, but never confessing, then retreating again. The somber story of love from afar. She is content to submit to the ring, the cycle, and do the same thing over and over. Vivi, who was the first one shown trying to break the ring, couldn't communicate that to Hyunjin due to her issues with being an android and how disastrous her own attempt at defying her life had gone for her. But Go Won was able to get through to her, which is why she smiles. And this is why she's able to sing Around You 2.0, in which she finally moves on from the person that she yearned for. I've been dancing around the topic of a loop, which most orbits understand to be not only the Mobius strip-shaped universe in which LOONA reside, but a time loop hinted at via various symbols and references and just weird shit in the music videos. Personally, I don't know how likely that is, and I bounce back and forth on theorizing around it regularly. But whatever the plan is to solve the LOONAverse's problems, it's not complete yet. Yojin and Hassel still have yet to make contact with the rest of the group. Yojin's status is forever a question mark, and Hassel is a very curious member of her group. If I cared to, I could guess on the possibility of her own power to travel to other worlds. As far as this theory goes, this is a roadblock I haven't been able to work out yet. But I do have another theory regarding those two members and YYXY that I might post later. For now, if you found this theory interesting or if it helped further your understanding of the LOONAverse, leave a like and a comment. Thanks for watching.